to install this equipment on an existing piece of equipment, the basic modification is to change the rear lug on the spreader bar itself, add the top lugs for the cylinders, add the lugs to the third axle for the end of the cylinders, and then mount the necessary equipment. There's no structural change, there's no frame modification, it is basically a lug change. So this can be added to existing equipment, and the one thing that you won't have that's interchangeable right now is, without some pretty intense tear down work, the third axle of the trailer will not be able to be detached and reattached directly behind the bogie. So the spreader bar and the third axle remains pretty much as one piece after this modification is made, after the hookup is put together, because there are hydraulic hoses involved. Although these hydraulic hoses are mounted with quick disconnects so that that power unit can be unbolted, set out for any reason, maintenance, whatever. So it is a simple drop-in, plug-in operation. The nitrogen accumulator setup for the East Coast 65-ton trailer consists of two 9-inch hydraulic cylinders, two nitrogen accumulator bottles, and a 13-horse Honda power unit that are plumbed in, that once we reach the limit of the up travel on the air ride suspension, the cylinders relieve themselves to give us an additional travel in the back end. So we've basically increased the travel on the rear axle from the 4.5-inch limit on the suspension to about 12 inches. This gives us a much better situation for us going through the dips, going through the holes, and the nitrogen accumulator also allows us to regulate the pressure on the rear end with the hydraulic cylinders, and it also makes it easier to install the shims between the main bogie and the spreader bar. The concept is the same. We're looking to level the axles out based on the ride height of the first two axles, and then the rear two axles are running at the same ride height. When you're going down the highway in travel position, the air ride suspension is adequate to take care of anything that needs to be done, so the power unit is not running. The nitrogen system is not affected in any way as it's going down the road. Your only time that the nitrogen kicks in is when you override the limit of the travel of the air ride, and we'll get into some operating features of this thing here shortly. The details of the nitrogen system are basically as followed. There are two 9-inch cylinders mounted on the top. There are two accumulator bottles in the center. Then you have two pressure regulating valves that are adjustable valves for the amount of pressure in the bottles versus the hydraulic pressure on the cylinders. The gauges read the pressure on the cylinders. You do have a flow control valve that must be open in the travel position. This is the only valve that actually requires any change of setting or adjustment. That valve is closed during your initial height regulation as far as the shimming, getting the pressure where you want it, and once you cut the engine off and prepare to go down the highway, you will open this bypass valve here and allow the free flow of the cylinder, or the oil in the off end of the cylinder. The hydraulic valve mounted in the spreader bar itself is a valve that adjusts the length of the cylinders. The only time this valve will be in play is when the power unit is in operation and you are adjusting the amount of travel in the cylinders to set the pitch on the back end. Now we'll start the engine so that we can adjust the length of the hydraulic cylinders and manipulate the air system on the rear two axles of the trailer. The hydraulic valve will change the length of the two cylinders. The bypass valve is in a closed position and it's ready to move the cylinders in and out. At this point we have the cylinders fully retracted. There is no pressure on the rear bags of the trailer. We're able to remove the shims, readjust as we need to. We probably have a travel of about 14 inches now. The shim between the spreader bar and the bogie can be easily removed for adjustment. The additional shims will help to add pitch to the spreader bar with the heavier loads. Once the shims are in place, the loads in place, we put the pressure to the hydraulic cylinders to bring the rear end of the trailer down, to give it equal pressure throughout axle 1, 2, 3, and 4. This time we're overriding the airbags and pressing them down to equalize the pressure within the airbags and the air system of the trailer. Once they're equalized, the nitrogen can be closed off and the air system will do the work that it needs to do to equalize between the 4 axles. If you get it down far enough, you'll see the difference in the tire deflection and the amount of load, showing the amount of load in the system itself. The cylinders are extended, causing the tire to deflect. Less deflection on number 3, slightly less on number 2, and virtually no deflection on number 1. We've relieved the load on number 1, overloaded number 4. Now as we relieve the hydraulic cylinders, it will allow the air system to come back to its normal ride position and allow the air ride system to operate in its normal automatic function. Again, the main elements of the nitrogen accumulator setup are the hydraulic control valve, 2 9-inch cylinders, 1 on either side, the nitrogen bottle, two nitrogen bottles, the 2 flow control valves, the 1 bypass valve, the 13-horse Honda power unit.